Oh my God, we're back again. I've had that song stuck in my head since we recorded last. So
Love
for a
that.
whole week now. Thank you.
The amount of
But
songs that get stuck in my head throughout the day is insane. And it doesn't help that Madison and I have the same, I don't want to call it an issue, but it's just like a thing where if we hear one bit of a song, we'll sing it forever and ever until it leaves our head.
I
So,
recently learned that there's a term for that. I don't know how new or old it is, but Chloe taught it to me. And Chloe was like, "Oh, I have an earworm." And I was like,
hmm
"Do you need me to like get some of the tweezers? What the fuck?" And they were like, "No, it's like when you can't stop saying something over and over because you heard it." And I was like, that sounds like a tick or a stim to me, but earworm works too, I guess.
yeah, I don't like that
Yeah,
term.
me neither. I'm like, bleh. But I say it now to Chloe specifically.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of worms, which is of the bug variety, may I tell you a story that happened to me today?
Is it gonna gross me out?
It might freak you out. It's not going to gross you out. It's a spood.
A spood? Those are the worst
A
kind of
spood.
boogs.
I know. That's why I'm asking if I can tell you. If not, I don't have to.
No, you can tell me.
Okay. We're sitting on the couch, and our couch is like all tore up from the dogs, and just like we've had it for quite some time. But it's still like comfortable to sit on, whatever. And right now we don't really have the money to spend on a new couch, so I always like lay blankets over it, right? And it just makes it look better for my mental. And I mean, if anyone comes, it probably looks shitty because it's just a bunch of random blankets all over the place. But I we had blankets on there, and April, for anyone who doesn't know, she is my little mutt shaggy dog, bearded baby. She's the sweetest dog. But she likes to do this thing where she plays with a piece of dog food and like spits it out and then gets it like she's attacking a piece of prey or something. And Megan and I are sitting on the couch downstairs and we're talking, and I just see April do like move, and then we see something fall on the couch. Megan goes, "What is that?" And I go, "Isn't it just a piece of dog food that April spit out?" And she goes, "No, I don't think so. What is it?" And she thought it was a roach, but we look over and it starts moving, and it's crawling directly towards me, and it's a spooter. I
Ugh.
had one of my slippers on because I was sitting on my other foot. I jumped off that couch so fucking fast. Couldn't find it after that, so I made make it. What? No, I made Megan, not Macon. I made Megan shake all the blankets off. Like, well, I stepped back, but I had the vacuum, so I could
hmm
vacuum it up. And then we pulled the couch out from the wall, went to go vacuum behind it. I saw the spood crawling on the couch, but Megan was kind of in the way, and I was like, "Look out!" And I couldn't get it in time, but didn't find it. So I got behind the couch with the vacuum, vacuumed it. There's little like flaps so you can access it's a reclining couch, so you can access all of the mechanical parts. Vacuumed in there, like shoved the end of the vacuum because it's got one of those long like adapter things into the
Yeah.
cracks of the couch. We flipped it upside down. I vacuumed inside there all underneath. But the spood was never officially found, which is the worst part of my life. And the amount of dog hair that was underneath that couch, I thought we
I'm
were getting it
sure.
all when we were moving the couch to vacuum, but no, we need to actually turn it upside down.
Ugh.
But we could have
I
made
would
a
have
whole
burned the
new
couch at that
chihuahua.
point.
What?
I would have burned the couch at that point. If I don't find the spider, the couch is gone. I'll sit on the floor.
Yeah. I thought about it, but the ferociousness, nope, the ferocity, I think that's a word, with which I vacuumed the couch, and then I sprayed it all down with Febreze, hoping to like deter the spider. And then my spot of the couch, I covered the whole thing with a blanket so it
hmm
couldn't get out of the cracks. If it was to come from anywhere, it would come from under the couch. And then I covered the rest of it with blankets and like stuffed all the cracks so it couldn't get through. But
Ugh. I hate
yeah,
spiders. I know
me
they're
too.
important,
But
but I
that's
hate
just
them.
no. And my thing is outside spiders fine. Inside spiders, why? I don't
Yeah.
have anything in here for you.
Yeah.
But that's the
Get out of
second
here.
time I've been attacked by a bug this week, or almost attacked. Earlier this week, a stink bug tried to dive bomb me, and I don't know if it was in the light or out of the ceiling, but all of a sudden I just heard a buzzing noise. So automatically, being the lunatic that I am, I just ducked and was like, and I just saw the stink bug fall on the floor. And I know you're not supposed to squish them, but that thing tried to get me, so I fucking smashed
You're
it.
gonna die.
Yeah,
You come after me, I come after you.
yeah. Oh, Megan said something funny when I told her. Let me find the text. I texted her and said, a fucking stink bug just tried to dive bomb me in the kitchen. What the fuck? And she goes, I don't know, lover. He just wants ya. And I said, well, he's dead and gone now, so he made the wrong choice. And she said, OMG, a murder. And I said, I don't care. He came at me. I don't care if he wants me. I don't want him. But be outside or don't try to fly at me. If I see you and you're not like a bee, not like regular bees, I'm not going to actively try to kill you. I'm going to tell Megan to kill you or get you out of the house.
Yeah.
But
No.
if I'm home alone, I'm just getting you. Spiders generally get got. And then, did I tell you what happened when we were at the hospital yesterday?
I don't think so.
So everything's okay. My mom had a little bit of a health scare. I don't want to share too much, but we had to go to the hospital so she could get her blood drawn to have some lab work. And we're sitting in there, and Chloe, my younger sibling, works there. We're getting ready to go, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you guys, you might want to hang out here for a minute." They just called a code something I can't remember. Well, it was like, oh no, they went on lockdown because
Hmm.
apparently there was a stabbing victim in the ER, and anytime a victim of violence like that goes into the ER, they tend to go on lockdown until they can confirm that the perpetrator has been caught, so they know that that person's not going to try to come into the hospital with a weapon.
Right.
So we're like, oh great. The next place we needed to go was close to the ER, so I mean, we were like, okay, we'll hang out for a minute. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, now we just were told that there's a code bronze. And do you know what a code bronze is?
No.
Active shooter.
That's horrifying.
And we were like, Chloe, everyone, what do we do? And they're like, we don't know. They haven't trained us for this.
Why not?
And I wanted to yell, okay, so kindergartners know what to do, but all these grown people who have patients there. So we just stayed put. And luckily, there was not an actual active shooter in the hospital. There was just a suspect around the hospital with a gun, but he never got in. Or they, I don't know, they didn't specify gender. But
Hmm.
it's like, okay, luckily there's like a sneaky back door where we could all like leave. But when you go most of the time to hospitals and stuff, they have glass windows where you go to get registered to have your whatever done so they could see right in there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, at least it was me, mom, and Chloe. We were all together if something were to happen. So,
Yeah.
but it was just absolutely
That's very
terrifying.
scary. Yeah. They should hopefully that like was a sign for the hospital to like train people on what to do if something like that happens because it's like yeah, it's good that kids in school are, you know, taught. They shouldn't have to be, but it's good that they are.
Yeah.
But that's not the only place that shootings happen. So,
No. And I don't, when I worked there, I don't remember being taught anything either. But I do remember like we went on lockdown one time because we had a shooting victim come into the ER and it felt like everything was done quicker. But I
hmm.
was also working in the ER, not in the outpatient lab, which is less urgent, I guess. So I don't
Hmm.
know, but I feel like there should have been something more that they would have known or more instruction.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, where's the little roll of paper to roll over the window so no one can see in?
Hmm.
Where's your construction paper that you magnet up so they can't tell if anyone's in the room, like in school?
Yeah.
And then all of a
That's
sudden,
scary.
they had a line of people waiting to get their blood work done. Apparently, whatever happened, the airlock or something, the door didn't lock correctly, so there was just people walking in.
No.
Yeah, and I think some of them might have been in the hospital at a different point to have something else done and then came over there, but still, why is everyone not staying where they're supposed to?
Yeah. Yeah. Should
Yeah,
be stricter in situations like that.
yeah. And our hospital's not that big, so it wouldn't
Hmm.
be that difficult. So, but yeah, that was my wild day yesterday and then today with the spooter. I kind of buried the lead there.
Any hoozles. Welcome back, puppies. Did we say welcome back?
Welcome
Welcome.
back.
Welcome.
Welcome back to our channel. I will never stop saying that.
How are we doing?
Yes. How are you? Any exciting stuff for you? Anything you want to share? I'm sorry I kind of took over, but all of a sudden I remembered the spood and the shoed.
You're fine. Nothing really exciting is happening on my end. It's been raining a shit ton and it's been really cold, which is not bad. But um, I have plans on Saturday to go to Port Orford with a bunch of friends and coworkers, and I'm very excited about
That's
that.
exciting. When did you make those
And
plans? Because you just now told me.
it only happened in the last day or so.
I'm just picking on you.
Like it was like a slow progression. I hung out with Annika a few days ago and she brought it up, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds super fun." And then my coworker reached out and was like, "We should do something." I was like, "Let's go do this. Come hang out." And then remember that girl I told you I met at the bar with Madison a couple weeks ago?
Uh-huh.
I texted her too. So,
Look at you making friends, combining friend groups. I'm so proud.
yeah.
Not that you don't do that or that you can't, but like it's a hard thing to do for anyone.
No, yeah. And that's one of my things for this year is I want to get out and do more stuff because I feel like I kind of just stayed at home a lot this year, which is not a bad
Mm-hmm.
thing. I just want to do a little bit more than I did last year, you know?
Yeah, I feel like last year was your like getting settled year, especially with
Yeah.
getting the house and then the dogs. And
Yeah.
I feel like now too Madison's there, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
you've got your person, so it's easier to go do things. Like if
Yeah.
Chloe invites me to go do things, it's easier. But like now that you're across the country, I hang out with Chloe and Megan and my mom now, so I totally understand.
Yeah. Yep, so that's been my life recently.
But hey, that'll be really fun. What is there to do in Port Orford?
There's this bar. It's called Mr. Ed's and they do like open mics and like live music, and I guess this Saturday they're having like a couple different bands come and play, and Annika's partner is in one of the bands, and she said that his band is like funky, like alternative metal type music, which sounds like right up my alley.
That sounds like the
And
three facets of your personality.
yes. So I'm
I'm
excited to
sorry,
hear it.
funky alternative metal. Like you guys might think from watching these that Haley's very much like quiet and reserved, and she can be, but you get this girl in the right situation around the right people with the right music, it
Oh,
goes
get
down.
down.
It goes down. It's the best. But that's so exciting. I'm so happy. I'm jealous that people get to hang out with you and not me, but
We'll get the next flight out here, bitch. You can come on
I
Saturday.
I wish. Oh my God. I would love to make it a goal to come this year, which I might still, but I don't know with everything going on with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
But my thought was if not this year, then I could come out as a celebration for my 30th birthday in 2025
Ooh.
and try to
I'm gonna get
save as
you
much.
drunk as fuck.
Yeah, fuck me up, Papa.
We'll get drunk on the beach.
Oh my God. Can we camp on the beach there?
Um, I don't think around here, but there's probably some spots. It gets kind of windy depending on, when you are here. But yeah, I
I'll
mean, I'm
hold the
sure we
tent
could
down
find. Yeah, true.
with my body. Insert picture of me rolling up the tent with my body.
Yeah,
Remember that picture?
I do.
Do you care if we take a pause so a visitor can come say hello?
Yes, I care.
Okay, she's pissing now, anyways.
Oh,
I didn't mean to say piss. My mom and I have been. My mom says piss a lot,
P.S.
and piss. I'm pissed. I said pissed on work meeting the other day, but one of the other girls in the meeting I had already said pain in the ass. So I was like, we're swearing here.
Madison and I have this inside joke from our last trip back over from Pennsylvania to Oregon. We were we went to Thor's Well, and we were there looking at it, and Madison was like, all of a sudden we're just standing there staring at it, and she's like, "I gotta piss," like really loud, and there was this woman right behind us, and she's like,
You know what? Sometimes we just gotta piss.
so now every time we go to the bathroom, we say, "I gotta piss."
I love it.
Well, before we get into what this week's episode is about, I want to talk about briefly this TikTok that Madison just sent me, And instead of just typing it all out and reading it again, I'm just going to play the TikTok and then Sam and I will talk about it. And then we'll get into Gypsy Rose.
You didn't even say what the topic was, so spoiler alert.
Well, it's in the probably going to be in the title, so.
Oh, I fucking forget about that.
The video is 4 minutes long, so it's going to be a little bit, but it's worth mentioning.
We need to talk about what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi right now and how 215 bodies were just found buried in a field behind a jail. I honestly don't know how this isn't national news by now. 215 bodies were just found buried in unmarked graves behind the Hinds County Jail, or more specifically, the Hinds County Penal Farm in Jackson, Mississippi. Some of the grave sites were completely unmarked, while others were only identified by a number on a metal rod. The family members of these victims were never notified that their loved ones were buried, and the majority of them still just thought that they were missing. And the state in which this mass graveyard was found is absolutely horrendous. The bodies were placed in body bags and never embalmed before being buried in a shallow grave. And the stench was reportedly so bad that it attracted birds and other animals to try and scavenge for the remains. This discovery has made many question why authorities never investigated these deaths, and why they also chose to never contact the victims' family members before burial. What's even more disgusting is the fact that now that this has gone public, authorities want the victims' family members to pay a fee to collect their loved ones' bodies. This discovery all started because of a mom who was searching for her missing son, Dexter Wade. This is Betterston Wade, and she last saw her son Dexter on March 5th, 2023 around 7:30 p.m. when he left her home. After not being able to contact him, Betterston officially reported Dexter missing to police on March 14th, although at first she was hesitant to do so because she didn't trust the Jackson Police Department. Just 4 years prior, Betterston's 62-year-old brother died after a Jackson police officer slammed him into the ground. That officer was convicted of manslaughter, but he's currently trying to appeal. Because of this, she was scared to report Dexter missing to that same police department, but she ultimately thought that's what was best to try and find him. The case unfortunately was not taken seriously from the very start, as the initial investigator assigned to the case misspelled Dexter's name as Dester. But Betterston gave the police department photos of him and remained in constant contact for updates. She reached out to the police department multiple times over the span of months, but every single time they told her that they had no updates for her, which was not true at all. In fact, they knew where Dexter was from the very beginning. Just 30 minutes after leaving his mom's home the night he went missing, Dexter was hit and killed by an off-duty Jackson police officer in a police SUV. At the time of the incident, the officer was not cited for any traffic violations, he wasn't given a field sobriety test, and Dexter's death was ruled accidental. Now, Jackson police say they were unable to identify him at his time of death, but according to the autopsy, the medical examiner, and from Dexter's body eventually being exhumed, it was found that his driver's license had been in his front pocket the entire time. At first, Jackson PD said they couldn't identify him, but then they changed their story to say that they called Dexter's mom once to inform her of his death, but when she didn't answer, they never tried calling again, even despite the medical examiner giving them that information from the start. Even though Dexter was hit by a Jackson police officer and was reported missing with that same department, whenever Betterston called for updates, they always told her that they were unable to find him. In reality, they'd sent him off to that mass gravesite to be buried in an unmarked grave. That same gravesite where 215 bodies were now just discovered. It wasn't until nearly 8 months later that Jackson PD told Betterston where she could find her son. They took her down that long dirt road, deep into the woods, past an empty horse stable and scrapyard behind the Hinds County Penal Farm. As they walked further into the field, they passed rows of metal rods, each marked with a number, in which we now know were actually graves. They eventually stopped at grave number 672, where Dexter had been laying for months unclaimed due to the negligence of Jackson PD. Betterston then had to pay them $250 to claim his body and have him properly buried. Because of this discovery, 2 other men who were buried and forgotten in this graveyard have been identified. One is Jonathan David Hankins, who was reported missing in June of 2022. His family only learned of his death from news outlets on December 4th, not through law enforcement. Jonathan was burned and buried on this field. Another victim is Mario Moore. He was also burned and buried in an unmarked grave in this same field after he was found beaten to death and wrapped in tarp back in February. His family didn't learn about his burial until 8 months after he was killed. Families of the victims are now calling for a federal investigation to uncover the truth about what is really happening in Jackson, Mississippi.
Fuck the police. I hate them.
I have so many things to say, but I'd like to hear your comments first, just so I don't take over, because I have a tendency of doing that.
I I'm like, I just saw this video, so I'm still kind of formulating my thoughts, but the constant thing of like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like, just because the guy who hit Dexter was a police officer doesn't mean that he wasn't under the influence or didn't do it on purpose or like something like that. So like he should have been properly fucking investigated. And Dexter was a human being. All these other people were human beings. They deserved to have a proper burial, to still be alive, you know. First of all, have a proper burial, have their families and friends know where they are. And just because the police may or may not have been involved in their death does not negate that fact. And it's really fucking
Mm-hmm.
frustrating to continuously see this. It makes me want to
Yeah.
throw up, honestly.
It makes me want to go absolutely insane.
And
When
then
I
they're
first,
asking, sorry,
no, you're fine.
they're asking for the family members to pay money to get their family members back after their bodies were essentially hidden from them. They're like, "Oh, pay us. Give me money."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's illegal. I think I know that mutilation of a corpse is illegal, which is what they're doing. So, for
Mhm.
example, the other two people who were burned and then buried, that is mutilation of a corpse.
Mhm.
Also, I have a feeling that this hit and run was never reported, which is also fucking illegal, regardless if you went to school for 3 days and became a cop or not. Um,
Yeah.
there are just so many problems. And when you sent me the video, I watched it twice. The first time I didn't actually watch it, I listened to it while I was getting ready to
Mhm.
record. And as soon as the story started, in my head, I was like, this first story that she's telling, that's a black person.
Yeah.
And when I
Of
watched the
course.
video the second time and they showed the picture of the mom and she was black, I was like, exactly. Like, it is just so fucking horrible. And I would like to know, if they're comfortable releasing it, how many of these people that are buried are people of color. Because I would bet my ass that the
More
majority
of
of
them
them
are.
are people of color,
Mhm.
specifically black people. Jackson, Mississippi is a very,
And the thing is
southern
like
state.
because we're assuming that a lot of the people who are buried there are the majority of them are black doesn't make the deaths of the people who are not people of color any less bad. It's just like it just proves another it just is very clear, you know?
For sure. And I would assume that the people who are not people of color are other types of people who are white that are thought of as lesser, such as addicts,
Yeah.
sex workers, women, things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up finding bodies that belonged to people who were related to or in relationships of some sort with these police officers.
I would not be surprised at all.
Because
I cannot
they
believe this
can
is not being talked about more.
I heard about it briefly, and then you sent me that, and I have barely heard anything else about it.
Yeah.
And of course, and I think the other two people that person talked about were people of color as well.
I think the second guy wasn't. Let me
The third one,
just
I
scan.
think was. Um,
Yeah,
it's
the
just
second guy was not, but the third guy was.
yeah. I just want to highlight the fact that any death is sad. Any death like this that's hidden and people are missing their loved ones when really they could have had some sort of closure the whole time is sad. It's just the fact that it's most likely disproportionately people of color is just disgusting. And I took some notes so I could try to keep my thoughts straight.
And
So
it's
the
I
first
can't even
thing, go ahead.
sorry.
No,
I
you're
can't
fine.
imagine being part of like being the person talking to Dexter's mom, knowing that you know where her son is and lying to her multiple
Mm-hmm.
times. Like how do you sleep at night?
Yeah.
You know?
Happily because they don't care.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes. So
They got to protect
my
their
first,
brother,
yeah, gotta
bitches.
protect my ass and my job and my whiteness. The first thing that I was like, what the fuck, was the person said Jackson County Jail, or more specifically, Jackson County Penal Farm. Why
Yeah.
are we putting prisoners on a farm? Which, I mean, it could be better than a jail, but
Mm-hmm.
why is it a penal farm? That just sounds wrong. Like you're farming people. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's a stupid name. The fact that I mean, it makes sense that the graves are unmarked or scarcely marked because they don't want anyone to fucking know. But that, just the disrespect. Like, there was so much national news coverage when they dumped Osama bin Laden's body in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But everyday humans can't get the honor they deserve on their burial. Like, what?
Yeah. And
I
all the
don't.
news
And
coverage
then,
with the sub, this quote unquote sub that got lost. That was everywhere.
mhm,
But
yeah,
this is nowhere.
this, yeah. Other than TikTok, which is basically the number one news outlet, anyways, and you get more
Yeah.
honest news there because it's people reporting from these places or getting the
Yeah.
real stories. And then the fact that they have to pay a fee to collect the bodies. You pay
Mm-hmm.
me a motherfucking fee and you dig that body up with your bare fucking hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you did this, and especially in the story of the person being hit by the off-duty police officer in his cruiser. Why were you why were you using the police cruiser that we as the taxpayers pay for to
Mm-hmm.
drive? You can drive home in it. That's fine because you need to have it at your house for your next shift. Or you're driving it to drop it off to the police officer that's using it next, or back to the station, or what the fuck ever. Why are you driving it to a bar or from a bar and drinking when you know damn well that that's illegal? And then
Mm-hmm.
just the fact that a cop can hit someone and kill them and fucking get away with it that easy, and like take the body
Yeah.
and bury it. Like, are we not, what, I don't have that many words for that part because I don't understand.
I think the fact that they covered it up and like claimed that they couldn't identify him proves in some way that the officer was under the influence of something when it happened or did it
Mm-hmm.
on purpose.
Yeah. There was, even if it wasn't any of those things and it was just him texting or not paying attention or whatever it was, they were covering it up
Mm-hmm.
purposefully. And the fact that the person who took the report misspelled the name Dexter as
Yeah.
Dester. I'm sorry, you're taking my information to report someone missing. You didn't clarify the fucking spelling? Obviously
Ridiculous.
not, because they probably knew it was the same family that had already had someone murdered by that
Yeah.
police department.
Mm-hmm.
And back to the part about paying to exhume the bodies. How how does that make any sense? Then these people have to go and pay again to have them reburied somewhere else? No, your police department should be fucking sued. This jail should be shut down. There should be a huge, I think it should be the FBI personally.
Yeah.
Because how many people are
Something needs to
missing in that,
happen.
how many people are missing that might be there in that town, nationally, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of that money should be funneled to the family's victims so they can put their children, their brothers, their sisters, their friends, their family to rest respectfully and
Yeah.
have closure.
Yeah.
And who knows how long people have been buried there.
Yeah.
And they say,
215 bodies. Like,
right, but that grave marker was 657.
yeah. There's probably more.
So if they do a complete excavation of that, how many bodies are they going to find?
Mm-hmm.
And how are they, and especially if it's been going on for a while, do these people still have loved ones on this earth? Is there going to be someone to claim them? Are they even going to be remains that can be identified? Especially because none of them were fucking, well, of course, why would they be embalmed? They're just getting rid of them. They're getting rid of the
Mm-hmm.
evidence.
The whole state of Mississippi needs to be investigated.
Oh, the whole southern half of the US just needs to be investigated and then like recut off from the rest of us or something. We can make an
Yeah.
exception for maybe like, I don't even know. Probably none of them. But
Some of
and
them.
then the fact that the original story was that he had no ID, but he was buried with his ID because they probably didn't even
Yeah.
look at him. Obviously, no one examined the body before. He probably had all of his identification on him. He probably had his wallet, whatever. They didn't care. They threw his body in the back of the police SUV, drove him over there, or held onto it, went to sleep for the night, and then buried him, excuse me, the next day.
True.
And then when they found the bodies, he was identified because he could have been the whole time. And the police, I understand what she's saying with the police department knew where he was the whole time. I don't think they knew where he was specifically because they didn't give a fuck about who it was that they were burying. They were just covering their asses and burying a young black man that they killed because they knew that they were in the wrong.
That's true. I didn't really think about it that way. I was
Yeah.
thinking they knew who he was and didn't care and just wallet. I swear to God.
Woo!
Please enjoy my dog's melodic voice.
It's the rhythm of the night. All right. Oh yeah. But them saying they didn't know where he was. They didn't. They probably had a thought in the back of their head like, "Oh shit, that's probably the kid that Johnson or whoever it was." I'm just going to say Johnson because that's a basic ass last name for white people. Hit the other night and he's buried out in the back 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know. So they probably didn't know where he was specifically
But
because they
didn't
didn't know
try
who
to
he
look
was.
for him.
Exactly. No, they never did. And then misspelling the last name again, that was not accidental. There's you don't do that if you're investigating something. Except, well, you do because you're not taking it seriously. But if they were to take it seriously, if that was a white person,
Yeah.
especially a young white woman,
Yeah.
it would be a whole different story.
A pretty young white
And
woman. Yep.
yeah, specifically. Or a man in a place of power that is white and cis
Yep.
and straight. Don't forget all of those.
Or
But then,
a white
oh, go
male
ahead.
athlete.
Oh my God. Oh no, a white man. And then the fact that they tried to say that when they did realize, like they found him, that they called the mom once. From what I know,
No.
you don't just call once. When they're trying to arrest a black person, they will call every known contact you've ever had and drive to the address that you were last registered at. Why wouldn't they try to go to the address and find the relatives? And obviously they had other contact information. No, they didn't.
They
They
did not
didn't do
call.
anything. They didn't do
She
anything
would've
except
seen
be
that.
guilty.
Yeah.
And this whole department, I don't give a fuck if it's one bad apple. No, it's the whole fucking department. And there's no way that you work there for more than 6 months and you don't know about the mass graveyard back outside of the penal farm. No.
Yeah.
I'm disgusted, but it's sad that I'm not surprised.
Same. And I'm definitely going to read more about it because that's the first time I'm hearing about it. And I'm gonna follow it as it comes out more, for sure.
Yeah. I'd love to keep talking about it and hopefully raise awareness more about it. And if you create any like videos to share, everyone who listens, please go on whatever platform and share that. And Haley's gonna like tag the creator of that video and everything and just get the word out there because
yeah, the account that made that video is named Crime with Court. I follow her. She does a lot of really informative videos. And I'll put her username down below.
oh God. Can the world just blow up? I feel like that's the only way we're gonna end up really solving it is for there to be either another ice age that wipes us all out, or if the sun supernovas and takes us all out at the same time, and then it all starts anew because the animals will come back. We're not smart enough evolutionary wise to do so.
Let's get out of here.
If anyone out there is listening, and this is actually just a science experiment in a petri dish on your shelf that you forgot about. If you clean soon, can you throw us in a fire and just like let us
Sky
go?
Daddy,
Cause
Sky
yeah,
Papa,
fire me,
restart the game.
Papa, burn me, Pop. Yeah, please, eject the cartridge while it's running. And no, that's probably what already happened because it's all fucked up. I don't know, but I hate all of it. I hate all of it.
Same, same.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thanks for educating me more on it because I heard about it, but I hadn't done more digging. So definitely will
Yeah.
be sending you any videos I find. So send me any you find.
Mm-hmm. Will do. Well, you want to get into the other horrible story?
Yes. Speaking of which, what are you educating us on today, Papa PP?
So this week we're going to talk about Gypsy Rose Blanchard and the death
The
of
one,
Dee Dee Blanchard. Yes.
the one, the only Gypsy Rose.
Yes. And this, like the format, I don't know if that's the right word, but like the vibe of this is going to be a little different than like regular episodes. I think that Sam knows more about this case than I do. I've been learning more recently, but I thought maybe we could like kind of just share what we both know and just kind of talk about our thoughts, our feelings, all that stuff, and just kind of talk about it, you know?
Yes. Yeah, because it's a, it's a hot topic right now. The story's been around for a long time, but with her being released from prison, it's back in the
Mm-hmm.
media more, and I'm sure that this shit still happens every day. So if we can continue to
Mm-hmm.
raise awareness about it without, for lack of a better term, beating a dead horse and sharing the story when it's been shared so much, we'll, overview, talk about it, but just kind of
Yeah.
bring it back up to the top of the conversation.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard grew up with her mother, Dee Dee, making claims about her health that resulted in a series of dire diagnoses and medical interventions. However, Gypsy wasn't actually unwell. Her mother had been lying about her symptoms. Experts believe Dee Dee's behavior stemmed from the mental disorder Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Because Dee Dee wanted to be a caretaker, she faked an induced illness in her daughter. The truth about Gypsy and her mother only came out after Gypsy arranged for an online boyfriend to murder Dee Dee in 2015. And
Oh
do
God.
you have more about Munchausen's? I know you mentioned you wanted to
So
talk about it more.
yes, and I was going to bring it up, and then with everything happening, I didn't. So actually, while you were saying that, I looked it up. So
Okay.
Munchausen syndrome by proxy, formerly, is the former name for it. It's actually now called factitious disorder imposed on another. And it's when someone has a mental illness, or I'm sorry, when someone has this mental illness, they might act as though their child or dependent has a medical condition that needs attention. However, the child or dependent person isn't sick. People with factitious disorder imposed on another lie about an illness in the other person that is usually in their care. It's previously called Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and it's imposed
Mm-hmm.
on another. Another type of factitious disorder involves making up false medical conditions about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This condition can be very dangerous and can lead to unnecessary medical tests and even procedures while the healthcare team tries to figure out what is wrong with the patient. When a child is involved, FDIA is considered a form of child abuse. And FDIA is often seen in mothers, but it can happen with any caregiver. And there are certain characteristics that are common in a person who has FDIA or imposes factitious disorder on other people. Being a parent is one of them, usually the mother. Sometimes being a healthcare professional or having medical knowledge. Being very friendly and cooperative with healthcare providers. Appearing to be quite concerned. Some may seem overly concerned about their child or dependent, and they might
Mm-hmm.
also suffer from factitious disorder imposed on self. And let's see. The name was changed because it used to refer to a figure named Baron Munchausen, who was known for exaggerated stories, and they changed it to provide a more accurate description of a person's behavior. Yeah, that's really, I mean, we can go in more to how it's diagnosed and stuff. I don't think that's necessary. But that's just, I knew it wasn't called
Mm.
Munchausen's or Munchausen's by proxy anymore. I do wish it was
Okay.
factitious disorder by proxy because I feel like that sounds cooler, but
Yeah.
it's now factitious disorder imposed on another. Oh, I keep kicking my
Ah,
desk.
gotcha.
But yeah, I just
Oh,
I knew that that wasn't the word anymore, but people still use that and it's not necessarily incorrect, but it's just been
it's
updated.
not the updated term. Yeah.
Yes.
So Gypsy's parents, Rod and Dee Dee, met when Rod was in high school, which I didn't know this. They later married when Dee Dee found out she was pregnant. He was 17 at the time, while Dee Dee was 24. I didn't know that. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
They eventually
Yeah.
separated shortly after Gypsy was born. Dee Dee described Rod as a deadbeat drug addict who had abandoned his daughter, but Rod told a different story. Rod later recalled how his marriage to Dee Dee quickly deteriorated by the time he was 18. He said, quote, I woke up on my birthday, on my 18th birthday, and realized I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I wasn't in love with her, really. I knew I got married for the wrong reasons. And despite separating from Dee Dee, Rod remained in contact with her and Gypsy and regularly sent them money.
Yep.
I cannot
This
imagine
I'm
marrying a 17-year-old, being in a relationship, quote unquote, with a 17-year-old when I'm 24 years old. No, that's disgusting.
and especially as a woman being the older person, just knowing that women or people who are assigned female at birth mature quicker, regardless, it's disgusting. And
Yeah.
that, like, that person's literally still in high school. And here's the thing, I'm not against age gaps. Megan and I are 7 years apart in age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it, but we were adults when we started dating. We had lives, we had jobs. It's about the life lived, and also, I wouldn't even say life experience, I would just say where you are in life. And a
Yeah.
17-year-old who's still in high school is not
It's still a
ready to be a
baby.
father, especially when the mother is a 24-year-old fucking woman.
I'd be interested to know how they met because I didn't see
I
anything
feel like
about
they might
that.
have been working together,
Mm. Oh, I
like
think you're right. Yeah.
like a factory or something, and he had an after-school job,
Okay. Yeah, I
something
think you're
like
right.
that. Yeah.
Gypsy Rose, who was born on July 27th, 1991, in Golden Meadow, Louisiana, was 3 months old when Dee Dee claimed that she had sleep apnea, and doctors eventually did several tests and found nothing wrong with Gypsy. When Gypsy was 8 years old, Dee Dee described her as suffering from leukemia and muscular dystrophy and said she required a wheelchair and feeding tube. The list of medical problems that Dee Dee related about her daughter would go on to include seizures, asthma, and hearing and visual impairments. And I'm sure there was a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, I think it's important to note that if she obviously had this mental disorder, it was
Mhm.
likely something that she experienced for a long time, and also part of the reason why she decided to get into a relationship with a 17-year-old. I'm sure that that was part of a manipulation tactic,
Mhm.
and she was either going to make him the dependent or then have a baby and go from there. And when
Yeah.
he realized it wasn't working out, I don't think that she would have ever divorced him unless he wouldn't be her dependent or tried to stifle her making Gypsy the dependent.
Yeah. I feel like it was all like a manipulation. She just wanted a child and manipulated another child into giving her that child.
Mm-hmm. Very much, just so much manipulation across the board.
Yeah,
Very predatory.
definitely. Um, do you know anything more about like her early life? Because I'm sure there's more. If you don't, that's okay. I know you know a little more than me.
Don't quote me on this, but I think that she did have some trauma as a child.
Mm-hmm.
But again, don't quote me because I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if there's a ton out there on Dee Dee's life before becoming a parent, but
There was stuff. I just finished watching the act. I know that a lot of it was like dramatized and there were like characters added in for the show. So I'm not taking that as like complete fact, but they did have some flashbacks, and from what I saw, they portrayed her, Dee Dee's mom, as like a really evil person who was like trying to
mm-hmm.
steal Gypsy from her, like saying that she was better, that Gypsy was better off with, I think her mom's name was Emma, if I'm not mistaken. That's who the name of the mom in the show. Yeah.
With that, I'm wondering if, I mean, it's totally possible that her mom was one of those people who, the kids are never good enough, or like they're jealous
Mm-hmm.
of the daughter, so they treat them like shit. Or
Yeah.
it could have been possibly that those were made up flashbacks from Dee Dee
Yeah,
to
maybe.
make her the victim yet again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll have to find out.
So, due to Dee Dee's actions, Gypsy was prescribed a litany of medications and had to sleep using a breathing machine. She also went through multiple surgeries, including procedures on her eyes and removal of her salivary glands. When Gypsy's teeth rotted, perhaps due to her medications, missing salivary glands, or neglect, they were eventually pulled out. And that happens in the act. It makes it seem like it's because she had been eating a bunch of sugar or something, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's probably medication and neglect, in my
It's
opinion.
it's probably a combination of all of it, and at the point where she did start like sneaking foods that she wasn't supposed to eat, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that she didn't have any salivary glands, your salivary glands are needed to be able to digest, do all sorts of things. So really having all these things done was just making her sick. So when you
Yeah,
can't salivate, all of that sugar is probably just sitting on her teeth because she's got
that's
nothing
true.
to naturally get it out of her mouth other than
Yeah.
drinking or doing whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to like base all my knowledge on this off of the act, but I did just finish watching it, so it's like on my brain a little. But the scene where they're about to take her teeth out, I don't know if this is true or not, but Gypsy didn't know they were about to rip all her teeth out until they had already given her the laughing gas.
I think that part is true
That's so
because
fucked.
part of the story, I don't know if you're going to get to this or whatever, is that they Dee Dee often made her much more childlike than she was.
Yeah.
So she was a lot older, so she was more aware, but they were, when you're a doctor, you don't necessarily always explain things, especially back then, to a
Mm-hmm.
child as in depth as you would as an adult. So she had the wherewithal to understand, but they were treating her like she didn't.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just looked up some information about Dee Dee. She was born Claudine Pitre in Chack Bay, Louisiana, near the Gulf Coast in 1967, and grew up with her family in nearby Golden Meadow. She was one of 5 children of Claude and Emma, so you got that right. Relatives recalled that she had a habit of stealing from her family, which they speculated was a form of retaliation when things didn't go her way. At
Mm.
some point in her early adult life, she worked as a nurse's aide, so there's that component where people have the medical knowledge. And the family expressed suspicion that in 1997 she may have killed her own mother by denying her food.
Really.
Yeah,
It kind of alluded to that in what I just watched, but I wasn't totally sure.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Let's see if there's anything else. Continue, but I'll let you know if I find more.
Okay, so her teeth were pulled out, and yet the truth was that Gypsy could walk and didn't need a feeding tube. Her head was bald only because her mother shaved off her hair, and oh, I already said this, but it's experts believe Dee Dee had a mental illness known as Munchausen's syndrome by proxy, which is not the correct description today, but it made her fabricate her daughter's ill health in order to receive attention and sympathy for taking care of a sick child.
I did find here another note, this website also says that had a history of being a liar, and her parents were never a big fan of her. The family claimed that growing up she would steal from them as a payback when things wouldn't go her way, and they accused her of committing fraud. Her family also believed that she had a thing for murder. Her stepmother, Laura, claimed that Dee Dee tried killing her by poisoning her. And then her family
Oh,
also made the claim that she might have killed her biological mother.
I remember seeing her stepmom say that in the, I think it was the Hulu documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot out there. I believe because, I mean, Gypsy Rose was convicted how long ago?
I think she was convicted in 20, I have it at the bottom, 2015. So the same year.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that shortly after that, they made a Lifetime movie, based off of
I
or
think I have that in here.
reflecting it. And that movie, honestly, because it's Lifetime, I think does even a better. I love the act. I love the actress that was in there. What the hell is her name?
Patricia Arquette. She played Dee Dee.
Yes, but the one who played Gypsy,
Joey King.
Joey King. I love them both. And it's
Hmm.
well done, and I think that it touches on everything better. But Lifetime, especially back then, was just known for being super heavy, and the Lifetime movie is good.
I haven't seen that one. Medical tests often showed inconclusive or contradictory results regarding Gypsy's diagnosis, but Dee Dee would stop seeing any doctors who questioned her daughter's ailments, and many caregivers went along with what Dee Dee wanted. As you said before, she had some nurses training, so she could accurately describe symptoms, and she sometimes gave Gypsy medication to mimic certain conditions. Dee Dee was also charming and seemed really devoted to her daughter. And when Gypsy was old enough to talk, Dee Dee instructed her not to volunteer information during their appointments, and Dee Dee was always the one talking about Gypsy's medical history. She instructed Gypsy to just not speak at all. She always spoke for her.
Hmm.
And I think I
And
saw
that's
that she always had her hand on Gypsy's and would like squeeze it when she wanted her to be quiet.
yes, she would either squeeze her hand, or I think she'd do like put it on her back or something and would try to hit pressure points to
Mm-hmm.
inflict pain. And that is honestly one of the biggest red flags in like the medical community, is when someone will not allow someone who should be able to speak for themselves. So I could
Mm-hmm.
understand as a parent how you would want to go over the medical history, but if they were asking her how she was feeling currently and they knew she could speak, to me I would say, okay, thank you, but I would like to hear from the patient how they are feeling. But again,
Yeah.
now, um this was a decent amount of time ago, and
Yeah.
she was young and so manipulated. I'm not saying Gypsy did anything wrong. I'm saying
No.
the doctors did a lot of things wrong, and so did Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Just the fact that, when you mentioned she had surgeries, some of these surgeries were invasive, and they do exploratory surgeries if they think that there's actually an issue. But just to do these things because someone is like demanding it
Mm-hmm.
is just so sad. But she was a fucking sneaky ass bitch.
She was very charming and very good at manipulating people, from what I've
And she
seen.
made sure she had all of her ducks in a row to be able to do it, because she would
Yeah.
fabricate medical history and then also take medical records from places that would have these diagnoses, and then, even if they weren't sure about them, because she had said leukemia when she went to the doctor, and did all these things to manipulate them, the next place would say, oh, here's this medical record, it must be true.
Yeah.
So just by being so persistent, that's really how she fudged all the paperwork.
In 2005, Dee Dee claimed to be a victim of Hurricane Katrina. She and Gypsy received assistance to relocate from Louisiana to Missouri. There, Dee Dee would continue to bring Gypsy to doctor's appointments, and Hurricane Katrina also provided an excuse for missing medical files. In 2008, years after Katrina, Gypsy and Dee Dee moved into a new home in Springfield, Missouri. built by Habitat for Humanity. It was
Mm-hmm.
painted it was painted pink, had a wheelchair ramp and a hot tub. Gypsy's story got media attention at the time, and Gypsy and Dee Dee received an outpouring of support, including many charitable contributions, like free trips to Disney World and backstage passes to concerts. And I believe one of them was Miranda Lambert, which is a nice choice.
Yes, definitely. And there was a where the Disneyland stuff. She got to go to Disney and all these different things. And I mean, in a way, I'm kind of glad that she did get to have those benefits because at least if she was being treated like that, she got to go to fucking Disney and wear a pair of ears. But
Yeah.
it's just like the fact that Dee Dee literally manipulated I don't know how you do that. Probably because I don't have any desire to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I received extra product from Amazon and I keep it and I still think like, oh God, what if they charge me for it? So I can't
Yeah.
imagine saying that you were hit by Hurricane Katrina, one of the most devastating hurricanes in the history of the United States, and then Habitat for Humanity, like the place that helps people, the number one, build you a whole house.
Was it ever like proved that they lost their house, or is it just something she claimed?
I, from what I remember, it was just something she claimed.
Okay,
I don't
that's
know
fucked.
what the process was or how strict they were, but again, it's back then. Sure, we had the internet, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah. When Gypsy was 14, she saw a neurologist in Missouri who started to believe that she was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So the doctor believed that she was a victim of that. However, this doctor never reported her to the authorities. In later interviews, he stated his belief that there wasn't enough evidence to act. Who cares? Just act anyways. If you think something's wrong, say something.
Yeah, but then playing devil's advocate, say he wanted to continue being her doctor to keep an eye on her if he reported it right away, and then something was done, Dee Dee takes them and disappears, and they can't be monitored. Goes to another doctor where
True.
he can't. Yeah, so it's like six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. He should have
Yeah.
reported it, yes. But I don't know if she continued going there or what, because if he wasn't going to give her treatment, she was going to go somewhere else anyways. So
Yeah.
if that were the case, I would have said something, but I don't know.
In 2009, an anonymous report was made to authorities stating that Dee Dee's accounts of Gypsy's ailments had no medical bias. This resulted in two caseworkers visiting the home, but Dee Dee was able to convince them that there was nothing wrong and nothing happened from that.
This is no hate on caseworkers because they do a lot of hard work and social workers are not paid enough. But it's just so frustrating when people go to these places. I mean, think back to Circle of Hope. How
Yeah.
many times did people like CPS go there and nothing was done because they were able to hide it? It's like we need to figure out a better way to investigate these things.
Yeah. So, as Gypsy grew older, Dee Dee began to lie about her age, going so far as to alter the dates on Gypsy's birth certificate to make her daughter seem younger. But as the time went on, Gypsy was still becoming harder for Dee Dee to control. In 2011, Gypsy tried to get away from her mother by running away with a man she'd met at a science fiction convention, which he was like an older guy, and he was most definitely like grooming her. Eek.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But I mean, it's like she's trading one evil for the other. Pick your poison.
yeah,
And she
true.
she probably didn't understand what was happening because she'd been groomed by her
Yeah,
own mother. No, and
yeah,
I know you know that. It's like, what the fuck is this girl supposed to do?
yeah. She's doing whatever she can to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But Dee Dee soon tracked them down via mutual friends. She convinced the man that Gypsy was a minor, though she was actually 19 at the time. According to Gypsy, Dee Dee smashed her computer and physically restrained her to her bed after they returned home. Gypsy also stated her mother would sometimes hit her and deny her food. Eventually, Gypsy was able to get back online and she joined a Christian dating site where she met Nicholas Godejohn. She told him the truth about her mother's actions and ended up asking him to kill Dee Dee so they could be together. And I think they had spoken for like I, maybe like 2 years before she actually like brought it
Very
up.
long time.
It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just like, "Hey, what up? Will you kill my mom for me?" You know?
Yeah. No, she had to create a relationship with him first, and
Yeah.
I will never say that Gypsy Rose is a villain in this story. I will
No.
say it was slightly manipulative of her to ask him that after he had fallen in love, and I'm pretty sure that he had some cognitive deficits as well, where
Yeah.
Gypsy Rose may have gone through everything, but that she was smart. She was
Yeah.
naturally very smart. So it was, I'm not saying it was wrong of her. I don't ever want to put any blame on her, but it's kind of sad that she convinced him to do that. But she was also just doing what she'd seen her whole fucking life.
Yeah, and I don't maybe she like I don't know. Madison and I were talking about it and I in a weird way I do feel bad for Nicholas. Like he did kill somebody, but from what I have seen, he was stuck in the mind of like a 15, 16-year-old and had this romanticized like view of the future with him and Gypsy and thought that
Mm-hmm.
he was protecting her. Um, I don't think he should, because I know he's still in prison. Um, I'm not saying I think he should ever get out, but I think that he deserves to have some kind of mental health treatment in some way because,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
I completely agree. And I know he had kind of like from what I remember, like a weird past. He was kind of an interesting character, but I
Yeah,
don't know if he would have ever murdered someone unless he
yeah,
was asked to. So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was sentenced to life
he
or a very
was.
long time. Yeah, he was sentenced to life, which I personally think is unfair when the murder was solicited by Gypsy. And I think that, you know, he thought he was doing what was right and he didn't
Hmm.
necessarily have the wherewithal to understand the repercussions of that and what it
Yeah,
actually meant. I think he knew what he was doing. I think he knew he was ending someone's life,
yeah.
but I don't think that the true severity of it landed on him until it was completed and then things started going downhill.
Hmm.
But I agree. I think he deserves mental health help and maybe
Hmm.
not to I feel like maybe he could get out because would he be a murderer if it weren't for this? I don't think so from what we know. Now, we don't know all of his information. I mean, there's
No.
stuff out there, but I mean, I'm pretty sure didn't he have kind of a troubled childhood?
I don't know that much about him. I do know that I think he was arrested in the past for like watching porn at a McDonald's and like masturbating in public
Yeah.
from, but that's all I really saw.
Yeah, which is not cool at all, but
No,
and it's harmful to others for sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was ever going to be a murderer. So it's
no.
kind of a hard thing because he did end someone's life, but I mean, people commit murders and get out of prison or don't even get arrested
Yeah.
or bury them behind some jail farm and go about their lives. So it's a really
Yeah.
complicated situation. I don't know if there's really a right answer, especially
Hmm.
with what we have currently in the justice system.
Yeah, I'm hoping he gets like with all the stuff going on with Gypsy, I'm hoping he gets listened to at least a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the
I feel like his
circumstances were definitely different, but he's not a cold-blooded killer, I would say. Like he was not
no.
going to be without this happening, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I don't think he just murdered someone to murder them. He
Yeah.
did it because he really, like you said, had this romanticized idea of what his life was going to be like, and from what I remember, it was going to be much better that way than it was how he was living it. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was still living with his parents. I
Hmm.
think they had a rocky relationship, and he they were just too. I mean, Gypsy was 19, but basically still a child, and he was also an adult, but kind of stuck in a child mentality. So to me, they were just both two kids trying to figure out how to make their lives better.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that if Dee Dee hadn't been killed, Gypsy would have been stuck like that until Dee Dee died naturally,
Mm-hmm.
unless she figured out another way to overpower her. But
Yeah.
she was so manipulative that I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how Gypsy would have ever gotten free, you know?
I kind of wonder, was Dee Dee's plan to like take Gypsy with her when she died?
Oh,
I have no basis behind that. I just like something that,
no, that's a good theory, honestly, because if she did this her whole life for her own gain and for her own to feed into her own mental illness,
yeah,
when she was old and couldn't take care of Gypsy anymore, what was the end going to be?
yeah, like I feel like for Dee Dee, like the thought of Gypsy finding out that Dee Dee had been lying all this time and like figuring out that their relationship was abusive and then Gypsy going on to speak about it, the thought of that would have not, she wouldn't have been able to handle that and she would have just
Mm-hmm.
taken her.
Gypsy was hers and hers only, and
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like a drink the Kool-Aid type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's that's a really good thought because I've thought about that before. Like, what was the actual end goal? She got all
Mm-hmm.
these things and lived a quote unquote great life because of all of these things that she manipulated from people. But what was it really going to look like in the end when she was old and frail and physically unable to force these things upon Gypsy? Or if Gypsy really got sick from all of this, who was going to actually take care of her?
Yeah.
Unless she planned for them to both be in the same assisted living facility until she died and then whatever, or until she took them both away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? On June 9th, 2015, Nicholas traveled to Missouri and waited until Gypsy gave him a signal that Dee Dee was asleep before entering the home. Gypsy said in the documentary Mommy, Dead and Dearest that on the night of the murder, she and Dee Dee gave each other manicures and Gypsy put Dee Dee to bed, promising to be a good girl. After Dee Dee fell asleep, Nicholas entered the residence and Gypsy hid in the bathroom while Nicholas stabbed Dee Dee to death. And after this, Gypsy and Nicholas returned to his home in Big Bend, Wisconsin.
I think too, like, in a way, Gypsy was her caretaker. Because even though she was not allowed to walk or do anything in front of Dee Dee, Dee Dee relied on her for a lot, especially emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
She just I would think that part of the illness is that she just needs to feel loved and cared for 24/7, and to do
Yeah.
that, she had to make someone depend upon her and then also use it. It's almost like a narcissism thing, like, well, I'm taking
Yeah.
care of you every day, so you're going to put me to bed and do all these things, and I'm going to be your number one, and that's what fuels my fire.
Because in the act, I know it portrayed Dee Dee as having diabetes toward the end, so
Mhm.
towards the end of her life. I don't. Was that true?
I believe so.
Okay.
If you want to keep going, I can double check for you.
Okay. Because I was just curious, because it seemed like it was getting very severe, and she had like stopped taking insulin. So on June 14th, 2015, Gypsy wanted her mother's body to be found, so she made a post on Dee Dee's Facebook that said, quote, "That bitch is dead," which immediately sparked concern from Dee Dee's friends. When they were unable to get in contact with Dee Dee, they called the police, and her body was later found by police in her home. And they made another post, but I don't want to read it because it's repulsive. But I'm sure you could find it if you want to.
Um, Gypsy and Nick.
Yeah,
What was the first one said something like,
that bitch is dead.
yeah. And okay, yeah. Yeah, and the second one is longer,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a lot. So, I think it's hard to know if she actually had diabetes because with the fictitious disorder in others, she probably also had fictitious disorder in self.
Oh,
But looking at her physicality and her health, she probably did actually develop type 2 diabetes.
okay.
But that's type 2 diabetes can develop just because, but it can also develop as a result of like lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 100% confirmed or not.
Yeah. Who knows? On June 15th, 2015, police were able to trace the IP address of the Facebook posts to Big Bend, Wisconsin, where Gypsy and Godejohn were staying. And police later raided Godejohn's family home and arrested him and Gypsy on charges of murder and felony armed criminal action. After Dee Dee's murder, many people who'd known Gypsy wondered why she had gone so far as to kill her. Since she could walk, she simply could have exposed Dee Dee's lies by standing up in public. Yet, Gypsy had been conditioned to think no one would believe her. She explained, quote, "I couldn't just jump up out of the wheelchair because I was afraid and I did not know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust." The fact was that Gypsy had spent her entire life being controlled and monitored by her mother. She wasn't allowed to go to school. Although Gypsy was of normal intelligence, Dee Dee told everyone her daughter had a mental age of 7. When they were out in public, Dee Dee constantly held Gypsy's hand, squeezing it when she wanted her daughter to be quiet.
Like squeezing it and digging her
Mm-hmm.
nails in, like
Mm-hmm.
violently. Just
Yep,
absolutely disgusting. And
definitely.
people can say all they want. Well, why didn't you say something or why didn't you do that? But when the person who's supposed to give you life and take care of you is actually doing this to you and is manipulating everyone around you and also yourself, how are you to think that anyone's going to believe you when she's been
Yeah,
so good at convincing them otherwise?
yeah,
You know?
it'd be tough. Like, she was very good at manipulating people. Who's to say,
Yeah.
like, she jumps up in public and Dee Dee finds a way to manipulate people into thinking, oh, it's just like a random spout of
She's having a muscle
energy or like,
spasm or
yeah, something
something,
like
yeah.
that.
Or like some figures out how to sneakily tip her over to make it look like she had a muscle spasm, which makes her stand up
Mm-hmm.
and then she falls because she can't actually support the weight and she's got muscular dystrophy and all this stuff. It's like,
Yeah, and then if she does something like to try to expose the lies and nobody believes her, and what happens to her after that?
it just gets
You know, what is
worse.
her exactly? Dr. Mark Feldman, an expert in Munchausen syndrome by proxy, said of Gypsy's life and actions, quote, "The control was total in the same sense that the control of a kidnapped victim sometimes is total. Her daughter was, in essence, a hostage, and I think we can understand the crime that occurred subsequently in terms of a hostage trying to escape."
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Completely agree.
As Gypsy's medical records documented the abuse she'd been subjected to, her lawyer was able to arrange a plea deal for the charges she faced in Dee Dee's death. In 2016, Gypsy pled guilty to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Nicholas was found guilty of first-degree murder in 2018 and was sentenced to life in prison.
That's a huge difference.
It's
When I
they
don't,
both
so
deserved prison time for sure, but that's just like, I don't know. It doesn't sit
maybe
right with me.
this, yeah, maybe this is a hot take and really controversial, but I don't think Gypsy should have ever went to prison. I think she should have been maybe institutionalized, but I don't think it should have. I think that she was a victim, and it's just like when someone has to murder their abductor or something to get out. It's just
Mm-hmm.
different because it was her mom. And yes, she planned it, so it was premeditated. But how else are you going to do it? Because she wasn't necessarily being it wasn't necessarily self-defense because something wasn't actively happening that was going to immediately kill her, but things were happening every single day of her life that were killing her because if with the medications that Dee Dee was putting her on, sedatives, just all sorts of very heavy medications, and I don't know if you know this, but I am pretty sure that some of the medications that she was giving her were actually for animals. She would
I
get
didn't know that.
prescriptions for like dogs, like they would have pet dogs and they'd tell the vet they needed something, and then she would give her the animal medications.
That's disgusting.
So even though in that moment her life wasn't actively in danger, it had been in danger her whole life, and I
Mm-hmm.
really don't think that she should have been sent to jail for it. Yes, a murder happened because of her, but what would her life have been if she hadn't gotten away? And how was she had already tried to get away. So in her head, she wasn't going to be able to because her mom fucking found her. And
Mm-hmm.
and especially in 2016, the technology and the resources to find people. And I mean, Gypsy would kind of stick out like a sore thumb,
Yeah.
especially if she didn't have a hood or a wig on, you know. And she had already been on national media after getting the house. People already knew about them. So I don't know. I don't think it should have necessarily been jail or prison for Gypsy. I do think that because Nicholas made the choice to kill someone who wasn't directly affecting him, that he should have had some jail time, but he also should have the opportunity to be rehabilitated. I do think that
Mm-hmm.
Gypsy should have faced some sort of consequence for her action, and especially the premeditation part, because from what we've seen from the emails, the chats, she was intelligent enough to understand
Yeah.
what was going on, and she knew what she was doing was morally and inherently incorrect, but I think that it could have been okay, well, you're going to go to this place while we try to, help you get physically and healthier and also mentally healthier from what you've been through and make sure you understand your actions.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think a lot of people feel that way, that she shouldn't have gone to jail. I do think that
I
anyone
don't
who
know.
goes through that, I understand where you're coming from though, because she facilitated the murder of a human being. That's a lot.
I don't. I don't even think 10 years, like, that's too much. Like, I think she deserves some kind of, like, consequence and also mental health assistance or, like, something like that. Um, because I don't want to say she knew what she was doing. She was brainwashed and traumatized, but she still did it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
I
that's
think that,
no hate towards her or anything. I'm so happy that she's out now. But,
yeah,
like, what about him, you know?
right. And I think that it's hard to look at it like that, like, oh, she needs to be punished because he's getting such severe punishment. But I feel like maybe if it was more fair for him, then it would be easier to say she shouldn't have gone to jail.
Yeah.
And I agree that she, in a way, knew what she was doing and she made the plan and she said those words. But I don't think that there was any, like, it wasn't malicious. It was simply like self-preservation.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't like stories you hear where people kill their parents just because they're simply sick of having to do what they're told, you know?
Also, I want to just say this real quick. Since Gypsy's story and her have been like in the news, a lot of the comments I'm seeing are like, "What about the Menendez brothers? Do you know that case? They murdered their parents for the money. That's nowhere near this type of situation. So shut the fuck up
No.
about that. They are murderers and they're selfish and they're pieces of shit. I don't care about their past. I don't care about any of it. They deserve to be in jail. So shut up.
No. That's a
Sorry.
whole, I don't understand. No, I can, because that's what I was thinking of when I said what I said, but um I know about it and I agree with you. Maybe there's something I missed about their past, but to compare these two things is just insane to me, because also, like, Gypsy didn't participate in the physical killing part because
Yeah.
I think part of her didn't want to do it
Yeah.
and didn't want it to happen, but felt like she didn't have a choice. Her the is it I always try to say it right. Wrong. Menendez or
Menendez.
Melendez? Menendez brothers
Menendez.
killed their parents in cold blood for money. regardless of how they were treated, from what I remember, they lived a pretty overall privileged life. And I'm not saying you can't be privileged and still experience trauma, but in this case, to compare those two is just fucking asinine.
They said in their trial, the Menendez brothers, I forget who, because honestly, the case kind of bores me because it's all about money. I mean, obviously, it's a loss of human life and it's very sad. But in the trial, I know that one of them said that the father was like sexually abusive towards them, but I don't even know if that's actually true, or if it was used as like a manipulation tactic to get out of what they had actually done and like
Mm-hmm.
provide an explanation for it. I don't I don't know. But I do know that they murdered their parents for the money because right after they killed them, they each bought their own cars. They just spent shit tons of money after it. It was about the
Mm-hmm.
money.
It was about the money because they were
Yeah.
selfish little boys. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember watching something recently, maybe like caught part of a Dateline about it, and it was he was saying something like he thought the dad was gonna kill the mom. Like
Mm-hmm.
they just kept like they just made it so fictitious. And in Gypsy's case, yeah, she ran, but once she was caught, she fessed up.
Yeah.
She was honest, and
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's just I saw that a couple times too, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's not because they're boys and she's a girl. It has nothing to do with that. It's just they're two very different cases. And if we can find concrete evidence that something more was going on, now I will always believe victims no matter what. But the way that they threw out those allegations against their father felt very slimy
Yeah.
and very much like, well, I'm just going to say this to get sympathy.
Yeah.
And they're just I wish I could describe it better and what I think, but the cases are
No,
just
I
it's not
agree.
the same. It's like,
Um,
yeah.
it's so gross to me that people are like wanting them to get out of jail because my experience or like my what I've seen from all the people who are like sympathizing with them, it's mostly because they think that these brothers are hot. Like I see thirst traps of them and they're like, "Free
Oh
my
my
man."
god.
I'm like, "They murdered their parents
They are
for money."
cold-blooded murderers. Right.
For money.
And again, the actual murder part is so different because they did it. They
Yeah.
went outside and got that gun and came back in with it, and they were ready to do it. I don't
Mhm.
think that if Gypsy had, if, let me go back. If the case were that Gypsy found someone who said no, I don't think that Gypsy would have stabbed her mother 20,
Yeah.
however many times. I
No.
think it would have continued until something else happened, and maybe she would have cracked one day. It wouldn't have been that brutal.
Yeah.
I know I've kind of already said it, but just, I don't know. I feel like the murders were done for completely different reasons. And
Mhm.
if they were abused, that's very sad, and I'm sorry for that. But it's a very different case. And there is not that people believe people when they're sexually assaulted, anyways, because evidence is very hard to come by. But with Gypsy's case, there is very clear evidence
Mhm.
and it's two different things, and the court already convicted them, and it wasn't like anything quick either. That was a long trial. There was a lot that
Yeah.
went on. And do I 100% believe in the justice system? No. But do I believe that those two boys or men are innocent in any way? Absolutely not.
No. I listened to like one podcast about them and that the way that they killed their parents is like so I don't know if intimate is not the right word, but it's very much like up close and personal. Like they literally pointed a gun at their mom's face.
Right. And if the story was that they were trying to protect their mom because of
Yeah,
their dad, why did they shoot the mom? And
I
if
don't know.
if the dad was the villain in the story, why are they going after the mom? Especially because they were older when they did it. because
Yeah.
they were in their teens. So I don't know.
I
And
think
I
they were older
understand
than
that,
that.
yeah, if you are like mad at your other parent for covering it up or not doing anything because one parent is doing something to you, that is not right of that person, but I just don't feel like it leads to point blank shooting them,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it that very seems to be about the money, and the way that Nicholas murdered Dee Dee is very brutal, but it's it I think it was that way because it wasn't as personal for him,
Yeah.
and that relates, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
It's very convoluted.
It's very convoluted, but to compare the two is just stupid. Comparing traumas
Definitely.
is stupid. Like trying to say that anything is similar is just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
What did Gypsy get out of having her mother killed other than getting the fuck away from her?
Yeah. And added trauma of being there when her mom died.
Right. And having to hear it. She
Mm-hmm.
wasn't gonna have, I mean, she did end up having some money because she found money, but it wasn't the same as the Menendez brothers. It wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't go and do all these things. She ran away to get the fuck away from the situation and hopefully
Yeah.
not get caught, which you can't blame her for.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not the same. I've seen that too, and I was like, what the fuck? And I'm glad you brought that up because I had forgotten about it. But
Yeah.
in my head, I was like, don't think that that's anything
It's
similar.
not the same at
No.
all.
Now, if you wanted to say something about the young woman, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, who was put in prison a few years ago for killing her John because he was pimping her out and abusing her, that would be similar, and she
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have been put in jail either. But the
Yeah.
Menendez brothers thing is not the same. And I think the fact that it's two people versus one,
Yeah.
because in my mind, Gypsy and Nick are separate because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't do the act physically together. And
Yeah.
Gypsy made the decision to ask, but Nick made the decision to act, whereas the
Mm-hmm.
Menendez brothers did it all together.
Yeah. I agree.
So, shut the fuck up, everyone.
Yeah.
Or
Cut that
don't
shit
shut the
out.
fuck up if you want to share your opinion. Do it politely and not just on a post like, but what about these two? Or my hotties deserve love. Don't be, there's actually, um, I'm pretty sure science behind, why people love serial killers so much, but it's very similar to the Manson family and all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like, stop falling for it just because they look good. Because honestly, people say that, ugly people can be creepy, but the biggest creeps in the history have been the people that were the
Who are
most
hot.
attractive, conventionally at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm getting so comfy over here. I got a blankie. My legs is up.
Nice. Love it. Gypsy has stated it was only after Dee Dee's death that she realized the extent of her mother's deception. While Gypsy had known she could walk and eat regular food, she had believed she had leukemia. In May of 2017, a year after Gypsy's sentence, HBO released a documentary called Mommy Dead and Dearest, which further explored Dee Dee's death and the abuse Gypsy experienced. And the documentary featured a variety of interview footage from Dee Dee and Gypsy's family, including from Gypsy's father and stepmother. Gypsy also appeared in the documentary and revealed the details about the night of her mother's murder. And I think that's the documentary where Dee Dee's stepmom and father said that they flushed Dee Dee's ashes down the toilet,
Shit.
and they said
That's
that
a
she got
lot.
what she deserved. Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but because we don't know Dee Dee's background and, what the whole thing was, people deal with stuff in their own ways. And also, I mean, sure, it's her ashes, but at the same time, it's just ashes,
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think I could ever do that. Might like spread them somewhere so I never have to see them. Not necessarily like a meaningful place, like a rest stop on the highway, but flushing them down the toilet. I mean, hey, but
I'd be
and
afraid
to
of being
me,
haunted.
for sure. I don't know if the spirit realm would let her soul come back. Like, they would take her, there's no limbo for her where her I don't know how it works exactly, but I don't know if she
Yeah.
has any unfinished business. I think that she did her business over and over and over. She'd be shitting everywhere. Shit on me, Papa. Like, Jesus Christ.
So, Nicholas's trial was held in November of 2018. Gypsy testified that she came up with the plan to kill her mother because it was the only way she could escape her life of abuse. While no one disputed whether Nicholas killed Dee Dee, his attorneys had argued that he was manipulated by Gypsy to kill her mom and should have his charges reduced to second-degree murder. Nicholas was eventually found guilty of first-degree murder in June of 2015. I think I have the dates wrong. Nicholas was eventually found guilty of first-degree murder. He was also found guilty of armed criminal action, and he's currently serving a life sentence at Missouri's Potosi Correctional Center.
Does he have the possibility of parole? Do you know?
No. It's
He
life
does
without
not, or
parole.
you don't? Oh my God.
He doesn't.
See that? That's even worse.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that it's really fucked up that they did not give him the opportunity for second degree murder, because although I don't think that Gypsy was necessarily manipulating him, I think that in a way she took advantage of the relationship that they had. And if she did understand that his cognitive ability was not fully there, maybe she took advantage of that. But I'm not saying that she did that on purpose. It just, the opportunity presented itself. And from what I have seen, I feel like a lot of people who are quote unquote murder for hire don't really get first degree a lot unless it's something like they've got a history.
Yeah.
So it seems very strange to me that they villainized him that much, but maybe there's more that we don't know about his background.
Yeah.
And maybe he is truly a danger to others, but it just, to me, it seems slightly unfair, especially life without parole.
I agree.
And especially
Definitely.
with his, whatever mental condition he has. Is it just going to
Yeah.
worsen? Is he going to, I mean, no one thrives in prison, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me, but maybe I'll go try to find out more about him and see how I feel after that.
Yeah. I'm gonna definitely read more about it.
Yeah. And
'Cause
maybe
I
more
just,
will come out now that she's out, because maybe she
yeah,
feels like she can share more.
no, definitely. Like, I've been seeing clips on TikTok where she's like, so many people have been telling my story without my voice, and now that I'm out, I'm gonna tell my story, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yep.
I love for her, honestly.
And I feel like this could just be something I'm getting wrong, but I feel like he was kind of not necessarily like manipulative of her, but he could be kind of mean to her. And he also wanted a life where they could run away together. So it was kind of like an agreed upon plan more than her being like, you need to kill my fucking mom or I'm gonna break up with you type shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not
But
sure.
it's also, I don't know, I just feel like I don't know. Again, I need to find out more, because if that is the case and he really just wanted, maybe that was a fantasy of his, he wanted to be a vigilante superhero and save someone, and I don't know. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Well, I
More
think that
convoluted shit.
he said he had like different personalities, and like his other personality is the one that
Right.
killed Dee Dee.
And in that case, why? I mean, was he evaluated by a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist before he was tried? Because wouldn't an insanity plea
Yeah,
work?
I don't know.
So
I'm not
I would
sure.
assume that they would have to do that before, if he's saying that he has
Yeah.
some form of dissociative identity disorder,
Mm-hmm.
or some personality disorder. I don't know. Interesting.
Let's
Because
see.
if he said that and then the experts found that it wasn't true, that's wrong, and that kind of shows the kind of person he might be.
I don't know. I don't want to take the time to read all this, but I think he was evaluated.
I would assume so. I mean, again, not I don't have that much faith in the justice system, but
Yeah.
I feel like his attorneys would have pushed for him to be evaluated.
Yeah, totally. So in March of 2019, Hulu released a series titled The Act, starring Joey King as Gypsy and Patricia Arquette as Dee Dee. Patricia Arquette was kissing Kate Barlow in Holes, by the way.
Isn't that
She's
crazy?
stunning. I love her.
I I love her so much.
Though the series received critical acclaim, Gypsy and her family weren't too fond of the show. In an email statement, Gypsy said, quote, I feel it's very unfair and unprofessional that producers and co-producer Michelle Dean have used my actual name and story without my consent and the life rights to do so. She also stated that she would be taking legal action against the show's creators. However, her family friend Fancy Marcelli later disputed that and said that the statement came from her own place of anger and disappointment and frustration. And she said nobody is taking legal action. I don't blame her for being mad, because if it was like an accurate depiction of like what actually happened, I don't know that I would be that upset about it, but that's me. But like I said, I know that they changed things about the story and like added different characters that weren't actually there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like this is
I'm
a real
pretty
story, just like yeah.
yeah. I'm pretty sure legally that they have to add so much fictitious information so they don't have to ask for that permission.
Oh, really?
I think that that's how that goes because technically that's her story is intellectual property, and
Mm-hmm.
if it's coming out on Hulu and it's something that big, you have to have those legal rights to tell someone's story because you can get in a lot of trouble. But I think
Mm-hmm.
the way that they skirt that is like by doing so many things that make it so it's not the exact story. I'll look into that too. But I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's still crazy to me that they would go that far. Now, I
Yeah.
liked the act. I thought the series was very good. Of course, it had been a while since I'd really looked into Gypsy Rose a lot, but I feel like I understand her concern. From a viewer perspective, I feel like it really showed how manipulative people can be and
Mm-hmm.
maybe will raise some awareness. But again, it's not fair that that was her life story and they shared it without asking.
Yeah, I agree. So in June of 2022, Gypsy married a man named Ryan Scott Anderson. I believe they were pen pals while she was in prison, and I've seen a couple clips of them. I think they're very cute together. He does look like her mom a little bit, which is kind of horrifying, but as long as she's happy and he's happy, I'm happy, you know?
You're right. He does kind of look like her mom. But the story I heard about him, and I think it was him actually telling it, it might have been a TikTok or a YouTube video, was basically that his buddy was going to be writing to someone in jail, or he like dared his friend, like, hey, if you start writing to women in jail or women in prison, I'll write to Gypsy Rose Blanchard or something like that. And then it
Hmm.
just went from there.
Oh,
It was
okay.
kind of like a big joke, and then he ended up really liking her.
Yeah,
So,
nice. Well, I'm happy for them.
yeah.
And that D is fire, apparently.
I mean, they ride for each other, so if that's really all you want in life, and he
Yeah,
seems to have like assimilated into her family, so
yeah, good for them. In December of 2023, Gypsy spoke in a candid interview ahead of her release from prison. During the interview, she said she was deeply regretful about her mother's murder, saying she was desperate to get out of that situation. She said, quote, if I had another chance to redo everything, I don't know if I would go back to when I was a child and tell my aunts and uncles that I'm not sick and mommy makes me sick, or if I would travel back to just the point of that conversation with Nick and tell him, you know what, I'm going to go tell the police everything. I kind of struggle with that. Nobody will ever hear me say that I'm glad she's dead or that I'm proud of what I did. I regret it every single day. And Gypsy was released from prison early on December 28th, 2023, after serving 85% of her 10-year sentence.
That's so
And
sad to live with that,
yeah,
you know?
definitely.
And I think that she was remorseful from the beginning. I just think
Mhm.
that she was so brainwashed that she couldn't even like, because her earlier interviews are nothing like her interviews are now. I don't know if you've seen
Really?
any of her earlier ones when her hair was starting to grow back and stuff. She just did not seem to be able to speak with any sort of conviction or certainty of what she was saying, and now she's really become like a full, well-rounded human being.
Yeah. Yeah, the only interviews I've really seen while she was still in prison is from that documentary on Hulu.
Yeah, if you should look up some of her older interviews because they're much different.
Mm-hmm.
um I think that in a way being in prison for 10 years or however long was it, 10 years that she was, no, she's, yeah, no,
A little less than
85%,
10 years.
yeah, was probably a good transition period for her because she went from not being able to do anything to being able to be her own person while still having restrictions. And
Mm-hmm.
now she's out. I feel like in a way it could be a blessing for her. I don't think it should have been jail necessarily, maybe some sort of, you know, like facility, like a state hospital or something where she was taken care of in different ways. But if she had been released directly out into the world, I feel like she could have spiraled
Yeah, definitely.
and the world would have swallowed her whole because her world was so small.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what kind of I don't know. I'm almost done and then we'll talk
okay.
about. So, a day after her release, Gypsy shared her first selfie as a free woman with the caption, "First selfie of freedom." Following her release, Gypsy has continued to keep her followers updated on her life after prison, including sharing pictures of her homecoming with her family and friends.
She looks so fucking happy, and her family looks so happy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that is a huge marker of who she is as a human because they could have turned their back and said, "You're a fucking murderer." But instead, her dad knew that she was a victim and continued to understand that. And he had to deal with the fact that his child killed someone that he once
Yeah.
loved and also made a child with. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot. But the fact that they all welcomed her with open arms, including her stepmom and like everything, it's just amazing and really goes to show because I don't know how many people get out of prison that are actually bad people and then have that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, and something Madison and I were talking about earlier, seeing how like mainstream she is right now and like all the interviews and all the influencers who are like meeting her and taking videos with her, it feels very weird to see all of that happening. Like very dystopian, and it kind of worries me because eventually it's all going to die out as things do. Um, and I worry about her after that because then she's going to have to really like face all of it. I think right now she's riding a high, and if that's what she wants to do, then go for it. Like do what you got to
Right?
do. I don't think she's unhappy with all the attention she's getting right now. I just worry
No.
about when all of that fades, what
Right.
happens next, you know?
Yep. I was thinking
I
that
just want
too
her to be
because
I want her to be happy for sure.
yeah,
And I just yeah.
she can't rely on the fame forever. I mean, she'll always have it, and I'm sure people will continue to want updates and stuff, and she'll have loyal
Mhm.
followers
Yeah,
regardless. And I think that with social media, she'll be able to create something. I don't know if it will be advocacy or her own brand or what it will be, but it won't be the same always, and that's going to be a weird reality for her to face. But
definitely.
hopefully, someone's telling her that, or she's ready for that.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm hoping that being in prison maybe gave her a quote unquote thicker skin.
It seems like it has.
But I completely agree with what you're saying. Like it could be a hard fall, a fall from a fall from grace, for lack of a better term,
I mean,
because
I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I worry.
well, and I don't think you're wrong though, because I think her being released right now, her story's always been talked about. There's been
Hmm.
movies and podcasts and all these different things, but it wasn't as sensationalized as her being released, so she's getting all of this attention. But when the next big thing happens that takes over the media and the internet, that attention's going to be pulled away from her, and I hope that she knows it's not as a result of anything she did.
Yeah,
And
totally.
maybe it'll be good. She'll have the time to kind of think about things more, but I feel like she's probably worked through a lot of it already,
Hmm.
and she just now needs to be able to adjust to living as a free woman.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm happy that she's got the support she does, because can you imagine coming out of prison after
No.
being made to be a child for your whole life and then being tried as an adult and going to prison for almost 10 years and then coming out and your mom's gone, say her family didn't support her, she didn't really have anyone? What the fuck are you gonna do?
Crawl under a rock.
For sure. Start using, hang out with the wrong crowds, end up in places you shouldn't be. So
Yeah,
she's definitely not lucky by any means. I don't want to say that, but I think it's really good that she has the support she does.
I agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree. But maybe we'll continue this conversation later on as, you know, I'm gonna listen. I know she's done a couple podcasts and like interviews and stuff. I want to hear more from her, like specifically, and I was gonna listen to more stuff before we did this episode, but I just kind of wanted to start it out as like a conversation between you and I, and we can
Mm-hmm.
go from there.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to share, I only found a few things. Of course, I closed the photos by accident. A few things online other than like just her posting regular selfies and stuff, which you talked about. Shit, where did the pictures go? Ah, so on December 7th, 2023, which was before she was released, um, she post not I don't know if it was her or someone managing her social media. I'm not sure at that point how much freedom she had, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a post on her Twitter or her X. I'm sorry, it's Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Um yeah. And it said, "I'm so excited to share some big news. A special ebook about my experience will be published on 1/9/24, so it's been out for a couple days now.
Okay.
It's called Released: Conversations on the Eve of Freedom, and it's a collection of interview transcripts, journal entries, illustrations, and photos.
Mm.
And it should be out right now, and I think that would be really cool for both of us to check out. Might
Yeah, that sounds
reiterate a lot
interesting.
of stuff, but if it's got journal entries, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is the viral post that everyone's talking about with her right now. It was actually on Instagram. I thought it was on Twitter, but uh, her husband Ryan posted something, and people, of course, were talking shit because they always do. And I couldn't find the post what it was originally about. There was just too much like static from all the hype on the internet. But
Yeah.
her reply was, "I just love this so much because it's great, and it also kind of goes to show that she missed the golden era of social media and she's newer to it. But I also just like the fact that she really doesn't give a fuck.
I love that.
It's like a
Yeah.
great like perspective. So she said, "Ryan, don't listen to the haters. I love you and you love me. We don't we do not owe anyone anything. Our family is who matters. If you get likes and good comments, great. If you get hate, then whatever, because they don't matter. I love you. Besides, they jealous because you are rocking my world every night. Yeah, I said it. The D is fire. Happy wife, happy life."
Hell yeah, Gypsy,
Hell
get
yeah.
it.
Fucking
Didn't
after not I mean, I'm sure she had some conjugal visits toward the end, but they haven't been married that long. So
hmm
go be fucking. Like,
didn't he
get it.
respond to the comment and he's like, come and get it?
Yeah, he did. He said, "Yeah, you right, baby, come and get it," or something like that. And
That's incredible.
I think it's cute,
It
honestly.
is
And
cute.
also the fact that she speaks like the most of the post until she gets to like besides they jealous part where she gets a little sassy. I love how like properly it's written. She's just seems very like well spoken, but then she can also like be the comeback with a little bit of like the
Yeah.
neck, the little like snap in a Z formation type thing. So
Yes.
yes, but yeah,
Love
that's
her.
all I really found. Other than everything that's really been publicized and probably upcoming interviews and stuff that we probably won't find out about until they've come out.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
yeah,
Gypsy
all that to
Rose.
say, like, with everything we've said, we both are so happy that she's out. We wish her nothing but good things. We're excited to see what happens next with her because I think it'll be very interesting to see.
Definitely. It will, and I hope she does well, and I hope her family does well, and her husband, and
Yeah.
part of me is like, is she ever gonna have kids? I wonder what that decision, because I know, like, for me, in my head, I would be thinking, oh, well, I don't want to have kids because of, I don't know what I'd be like as a mom because of what I went through. But then also the hope that, oh, I'd love to have kids so I can give them a different life. But I
Yeah.
mean, she never had the opportunity to be a real kid. So part of me's hoping she at least waits a little bit. But she's what,
Yeah.
32 now?
Really? I was just wondering
Yeah.
how old she is now.
Well, you were born
Wow.
in
93.
in 93 and she was born in 91. Yeah, she's only 2 years older than you. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild. Gypsy, we love you.
We do love you, Gypsy. Keep getting that D, girl. And
Yeah,
if you
get
want to
it.
come on the pod, that would be fantastic. We'll let you tell your own truth. We will not steal anything from you. We will let it fly. That's what we do
We'll
here.
just sit here with dumb smiles on our faces and let you talk until you're done talking.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
can tell us to cut anything out that you want, but we'd love to talk to you and hear it straight from the what's the saying? The horse's mouth. Why is everything about a horse?
Is that the right term? From the horse's mouth?
Straight from the horse's mouth?
Let me see.
I'm like, let me Google this because I feel like we're on the basement yard right now. Yeah, straight from the horse's mouth as I started typing
Oh,
straight
you're
from
correct.
the. If you hear something straight from the horse's mouth, you hear it from the person who has direct personal knowledge of it. That's from Cambridge Dictionary. Yeah, so this podcast I said beat a dead horse and straight from the horse's mouth.
Yes. I'm
Hayes for
sorry for
horses.
questioning your knowledge.
No, I was questioning it too. I was like, do I just have fucking horses on the brain? Nah. Like, I don't understand, but yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that and bringing it up and letting me talk and share my opinions. And I'd love to hear what other people think, honestly. As long as everyone's
Yeah.
respectful, I think everyone's can have different perspective and put in their different things and maybe open our eyes to things that we don't know.
Definitely. Yep.
Yes.
I'm sure there's more about this that I'm not aware of, and I would like to hear about it for sure.
Yes. Same.
Is there anything you would like to say before we close it out?
Oh, yeah, I do have one thing. So the Poppies have some exciting news. We will be having our first guest on the show here shortly. I don't want to give away too much. But
It's
we will
very
be
exciting.
recording with a very special guest, and that episode will be coming out next month. I think that you will all be surprised and shocked and excited as well. And I think it's going to be really good for this person and their cause and for us. So just keep an eye out and, you know, be ready for some really exciting and interesting and straight from the horse's mouth content.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not Gypsy Rose.
Oh no,
We
it's not
didn't. We
Gypsy
haven't.
Rose.
No. Just so no one thinks that that's what we're alluding to here. Don't get your hopes up because I don't want to get your panties in a bunch. Why am I saying all these sayings? When did I become part of Gen X? I do love a good saying though.
Same. But yeah,
yes,
that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also very nervous, but it'll be fun. And
dude, I'm
informative.
so nervous,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna prepare. I'm gonna start preparing
Yeah.
stuff this weekend for sure because this weekend is going to be hopefully a chill one for me.
Yeah.
And chill and research and write up some questions and figure out what to do. But holy shit, guys, like, we'll tell you more probably after the episode, or like if when we record with them, maybe we'll record separately a part of it. But when this opportunity came about and we started speaking with this person, I was running circles around my house because it's just,
I was too. I was freaking out. Madison
I
and
was,
Logan were sitting in the living room, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Haley and I were messaging back and forth, like, can you believe this? What the fuck is happening? What is going on? I was literally jumping for joy, especially because the conversation continued. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just to be recognized and noticed for all of our hard work, because we put our whole pussy into this
Budussies.
pussy. Um, it just means a lot to us. So we are very excited to speak with them, and I hope that you
Definitely.
are too, and I hope that you keep sharing, because having them on here is going to be a really good thing and can also get some more awareness out about other things. So,
Definitely.
yes.
Well, if you want to send us a message about anything at all, honestly, you can do that at our email, which is educatemepapa@gmail.com, or you can message us on
.com?
Instagram at educatemepapa. You can
Papa?
find us on Facebook at educatemepapa-the podcast. You can find
The
us on TikTok
podcast.
at educatemepapa. I think that's it.
Watch our YouTube videos. We have been
Oh,
uploading
yes.
consistently, and I'm finally getting better at doing good edits. Haley really has always been, but the content is pretty good, and we're proud of it. And I don't know,
You
I
can
feel
see
like
our hot faces.
yeah. Wow, 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 wow. She moving by like a cyclone. See, okay, so we do the same thing. It's echolele. You made a noise that made me think of that song. Go listen to that song. I don't know if it's controversial. I just really like the beat. If it is controversial, I'm sorry. Turn it off. You know what to do.
Turn it off.
But don't turn off our podcast or our YouTube videos. Also, I think for me, when I listen to a podcast and I start watching their YouTube videos or clips of them and I get to know whose voice goes with whose face, it really helps me get into the podcast and creates that parasocial relationship. And if anything, we want to educate you to be our motherfucking friends. Haley moved across the country from me. I have other friends, but they have children. I need
Just kidding.
friends that are
I'm kidding.
just want to like exist separately, and then every once in a while send each other a meme. It's my favorite
Yeah.
kind of friendship. Yeah.
Same. Well, with that, we
We
would
would like to
Thank you for listening. 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 Thank you for listening.
thanks for listening. Thanks. We love you, Gypsy Rose.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. All right. We will
All right,
see
we're gonna
you
go. This episode
next
is long as
time.
fuck, by the way. Oh my god. Okay.
Between the two of them. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
We love you. Thank
See
you
you
for
next time.
listening.
Toodle. Bye.
Bye.
Bitches. Bye.
Bitches up.